T minus 50 seconds. T minus 40 seconds. T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Own it, own it, own it, Kong. I own it. It did.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.
What is up, guys? Welcome to Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. WWT Live, the Monday edition, and we got a lot to go through. You guys can't even see. We're going to talk a little bit about WoW. I went to WoW on Friday, so I'll talk a little bit about that as well. But I am not alone. I feel like just a standing, we'll say official co-host, because he's here all the time, which I'm very thankful for. Mr. Gerard Bonner, how are you doing?
I'm fantastic. How are you, TK?
I am great. I can't complain.
Awesome sauce. You had a great weekend. Wow. I can't wait to hear all about it.
Yeah, it was a really wow weekend. It was a good start off to the weekend. It was the first weekend in a long time that I didn't have to do my pop-ups. So it was good, nice. I still worked, because for folks who know me, I'm always working, but
always
stay at home and doing stuff. So yeah, it was great. So
dope.
So what do you have for us today?
Oh, there is plenty. There's plenty. Let's start in the NWA. The NWA had NWA 74 over the weekend, a 2-day event. That seems to be the new craze. I mean, Wrestle Kingdom started it, then WrestleMania is doing it. So now the NWA 74, 2 days, and it's very interesting because one of the big stories coming out of there is the NWA Women's World Champion. Kamille, formerly known as Kamille Brickhouse, ended up having 2 successful title defenses over the weekend. She main evented the Saturday night show, where she took on Taya Valkyrie in an incredible match. And then on Sunday, she ended up taking on the winner of the Burke Invitational. Now, the Burke Invitational also happened Saturday night, where Max the Impaler won that. Max the Impaler went on Sunday night to battle Kamille. Kamille retains the championship, and Kamille is getting into some pretty significant spaces right now, as she's getting close to 450 days as the NWA Women's World Champion. Now, this is getting into some really significant spots, because at 450 days in her title reign, she now has the 10th longest reign for anyone holding the NWA Women's World Championship, which is, again, really incredible. So, in about 2 weeks or so, matter of fact, in about 20 days, she will have moved past Leilani Kai, who was at 465 days, and that was number 8. So she is quickly moving her way up the ranks to being certainly one of the greatest women's champions in all of the NWA. And now when we start thinking about all of women's wrestling, this is certainly one of the longer reigns we've seen in the modern era.
Right. And I feel like I might have seen an article or something where she was saying that people weren't really respecting the fact that, she's not necessarily in the conversation for women's wrestlers, which I really agree with. But partly I think it's because up to Empower, I remember hearing about her, but I didn't know everything about her. And I saw her at Power, and I was like, oh my God, she's amazing. So she became on my, in my zeitgeist. However, I think that was up to NWA to push her through, because there's some back end stuff too. But like, you know what I'm saying? Like if they're not pushing her in social media, etc., then how are we supposed to grasp onto this? So it's a two-way thing. Like, yes, we should know, but we can't keep track of everything, especially when everything is like, WWE is dominant. Let's just be honest, as far as TV, they get coverage all the time. AEW now is one of them, but you have access to all these publications. I love Women's Wrestling Talk, where we could do interviews and all this other stuff. And it's just like, it's a hand watches a hand. So I feel like that's one of the reasons why, she's not part of some of these conversations.
And I totally love that you said that, because it is a two-way street. It is certainly the responsibility of the wrestler, but it is also the responsibility of the promotion. It kind of makes me feel like in the world of music, when people talk about my record label didn't push me as they should, and that is part of their responsibility. Same thing here with the NWA. Now, it's funny, Kamille's trajectory kind of reminds me of back in the 90s and early 2000s of China, where China came in initially as a bodyguard. Kamille did the same thing, came in as a bodyguard for Nick Aldis for a while. Matter of fact, she went about a year, almost 2 years, before ever uttering a word. And then all of a sudden, she uttered a few words on television. The pandemic happened. Once we came back from the pandemic, she was wrestling now full-time in the NWA. And it was summer of 2021 when she first won the world championship, defeating Serena Deeb. So it's crazy to think that, for all, and we've had tons of conversations about things going on in women's wrestling and the top wrestlers, et cetera, et cetera. Kamille's name has never come up. And it's never come up because I don't think that neither Kamille or the NWA is doing a good job of keeping her in the forefront of our mind. Right? I mean, think about it. We've talked obviously a lot more about Bianca and several other people who have had shorter title reigns than that. But I think this also causes us to investigate what's in a title reign, right? Like a 447-day title reign is impressive, but a 447-day title reign in the NWA doesn't mean these days the same thing as a 447-day title reign in AEW or in WWE, simply because these folks are, and here's why. It's because those folks are weekly on our television. Those folks are weekly, and the caliber of competition that they're having, the level of defenses and regularity of title defenses. They are constantly in the conversation. And it goes to what you were saying earlier. If you don't keep yourself out there, if you don't remind us why we should be talking about you, and if the NWA, see, this is where we can start some trouble, right? Because it's crazy to me that a Nick Aldis for all this time has been considered the face of the NWA, but he hasn't held a championship in a year. All that time, Kamille has been champion, and we've not been talking about her. So it's unfortunate that, again, the NWA isn't pushing her as they should. And I tried not to have any sort of chip on my shoulder watching NWA 74 this weekend, as I was thinking about where was Empower. And of course, we had this Burke Invitational with 10 women. You had now the women's main event being the main event for the title. And then you turn around, you have a tag title match on night 2, another women's title match on night 2. That seems to me like that could have been an Empower card. But who am I? What do I know?
There's not enough people that were unsigned, I guess.
Apparently. And one of the people that they had to choose from that they could have is a former NWA women's champion. Her name is Santana Garrett. She was available up until this weekend, because now today Santana Garrett has announced that she is back in the WWE. Now, she spent some time in WWE and NXT for close to 2 years. Well, though her time in NXT wasn't super memorable, did not have a lot of wins, didn't chase any championships or anything like that, but she's come back to WWE as a coach at the Performance Center. And I think that that is super important, because one of the reasons why the NXT women's division has always been so significant has been because they've had some significant and incredible coaches, whether it was Fit Finley, Sarah D'Amato. There's always been some amazing folks there coaching the women's side of the WWE. So seeing Santana Garrett back is definitely a win on this side. Again, she spent 314 days as an NWA women's champion. So one would think that people would have been grabbing or at least fighting to try to get a hold of her. She spent a little bit of time in AEW. Again, it was a small run, but I think
she's
her
also
being
in WoW as well.
Yes, she was. She's also in WoW as well. And she's won championships pretty much everywhere. So it's exciting to see Santana Garrett back in the WWE, this time in the role of a coach.
Yeah, I believe it's Serena Deeb. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm all for it. She's one of those people too, where it's like everybody knows her name, but she stays. There's a few. I'm gonna say women's wrestlers because that's where we most focus on more often. There's a few women's wrestlers that and no shade to them, not shade. That's just what it is. They just don't they don't like it doing interviews, or they don't do interviews. So it's like Santana Garrett is one of them, and I would love to she's had such a long career, so I'd love to discuss what that is, or there's some type of piece on her or stuff like that. So but congratulations to her, and I wonder how that's gonna look. Like, I wish that, again, more behind the scenes type stuff where you see like a chart and you see, okay, well, this coach was here in this era, and you kind of see the branches, you know what I'm saying? And you see whether these people went off to be amazing superstars, or they went to be, mid-range, or they, left. So I wish there was some type, and I'm sure, for super wrestling enthusiasts who they do all day, all night, which you can, wrestling on TV, can draw the line, like Dusty Rhodes. These are all the people that he, and these is where they are now. Like they're, somebody out there, it won't be me because I have too many jobs, but somebody out there, please, that would really be awesome to see, because I saw totally off topic. I saw the House of the Dragon, their family line, a whole bunch of incest and stuff like that. But it was interesting to see, because now you can visually see, especially with watching Game of Thrones, how it kind of all plays out. So long story short.
No, that would be great. That'd be amazing.
It would be great. So we are going to bring another integral part to WWT Live. She looking fly with the red lipstick and the hair, all that stuff. Unmute your mic.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Every week, it never fails.
Oh, and before we get into your story, let's talk about Anthony's comment in the chat. So with Kamille's reign getting so long, aren't you guys scared that it might become steel after a while, and fans will turn on Kamille even though the crowds are cheering for her now?
I don't think so. I think the NWA situation is a little bit different. They're not touring as much as other folks, and again, 400 and some odd days isn't still overexposure in that particular environment. Let's also remember that it's going to be a while before she catches the third longest reign, which happens to be the one and only Jazz, who had a reign of 948 days, and it was one singular reign. And she only lost that title just a couple of years ago, and it really wasn't a loss. She gave it up. Right. So, and
wasn't that her reign also included when NWA took a break, though?
It is. In fairness, it did include that as well. So, to that end, I say I think people are okay with longevity as long as it's done right, and as long as people are developing and evolving. So we've seen some evolution, certainly with Kamille. As I mentioned before, she went from not talking and being a bodyguard to being just, super tough. And again, like the alpha female, right? So now the question is, who can knock her off? And I don't really know that there's anybody who's lined up to do it, because the two women who fought her this weekend were really, really tough. and that was a great matches for her. So I don't know. It's going to depend on how the NWA, visualizes all of this, but I don't think we'll be getting tired of Kamille anytime soon, simply because there aren't enough people talking about her right now.
That part. So we'll send an official invite to NWA.
Yes.
Bring us all your women's wrestlers.
Yes.
Women's wrestlers. We will interview all of them. Now back to Mimi. How are you doing? And welcome.
Thank you, guys. I missed you guys very much. Thank you for having me back. I thought I got kicked out.
Oh.
No. Look at TK like, I was about to if you ain't coming back.
No. Not even close. Not even
JK. Well, I love the girly stuff. And our girl, Nikki Bella, got married to Artem. I do not want to butcher his last name, so I will not butcher it. However, after 3 years of engagement, finally they tied the knot, and she let us know on her Instagram today. And she also let us know some really exciting news that they are going to do a 4-part special event for this wedding event. Wedding event. And that's going to be super interesting to see that happen, to see if it's going to tie into the Total Divas. I know a lot of people have been wanting Total Divas to come back. I personally have watched the franchise, and I'm not really a big reality TV person, but because it's wrestling and it's women's wrestling, it gives you like a little bit of an insight of their relationships. So that was always kind of fun to watch. So I'm really excited to see that. As we know, they've been dating since 2019. They announced Nikki was engaged to Mr. Cena, Mr. You Can't See Me.
Crazy.
Yes, it was.
And I will say, when that engagement happened in the middle of the ring, was that New Orleans?
I think it was. I did an eye roll.
I did an eye roll because I felt like it was a lot. And I wasn't really sure. I am a firm believer of love. Like, I love to be in love. That's the type of person I am. I'm a serial monogamous. Like, I just absolutely love to be in love, butterflies, all of that. But for some reason, it didn't feel right. Especially with Total Bellas, it didn't feel right. It gave us a little bit too much information into their relationship.
Yeah,
there is some stuff. Yeah, like, and here I feel like they're always having fun. You know what I mean? And so, they had their baby Mateo in 2020. So it feels like they're constantly playing all the time. Like, they're always on kid mode. It's like they're in high school. So to hear that they got married, which was super low key, because I hadn't seen anything about shopping for dresses, going here, there, and everywhere. So it's really great to see that they were they were able to tie the knot. We've got their famous Natty, Bestie Natty was there. Summer Rae was there. And I think CJ Perry was there too. And I absolutely love Lana. So I'm waiting for Miro to come back so Lana can come back. But it was a star-studded event. Paris is a beautiful place to get married. And in true Bella form, that's exactly where it needed to be. And I cannot wait to watch this special.
Yeah, I definitely agree. The special is going to be great. Totally. I'm kind of like torn, maybe because the storyteller in me still wanted her and John to like be together, but not like after watching Total Bellas, it's like, no, this is just not going to work out. No. But just the appearance and the storyline, like, when he was like, telling her how to clean his house and stuff like that, that was just kind of weird. It was very much, there was a lot of off things. Yeah. But just if it would have worked out, it would have been an amazing thing. Like, meaning that they were both on a certain level, but that's more fantasy than reality as far as personalities. She's clearly happy. She's clearly in love. She made the right decision, although very like, damn, John Cena, gets told this is not happening on television. But he's married too. So,
right. Right. Got married
Hartman's-
super
yeah.
fast. Like made her like
Mhm.
it was, I knew, when I knew when he gave her the ultimatum of picking which one, because if you love somebody, you don't give them an ultimatum, right? Like things just happen naturally. That's one. And two, they were having lunch somewhere and she said something to the effect of, I really appreciate you. You're like my mentor.
Yeah.
Your significant other should not be your mentor. He should be an inspiration. Like you inspire me. You're my champion, but not your mentor.
I think she
Now
was
it
still
feels
trying to find herself
orchestrated.
at the point. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels orchestrated. I've always felt like she loved attention, loved the limelight, and I think she might have been in love with the illusion of who John Cena was, not necessarily the thing, because I feel like she came to Jesus in that when she was buying her wedding dress, wasn't she? Like she was just like, I don't think this is the right thing. I never saw that, but I felt like she came to that conclusion herself. So at that point, I felt like, okay, she's just not. She wants to be in a relationship and married and committed, but it has to be right, and this feels right.
Right. So JD with the question. I feel like JD, every time you come on, you be throwing some funny shade. Some of it, but I don't see. Is there drama that I missed? I don't see why John wouldn't have been there.
He's being funny.
Well, no, I don't. What I don't know is we don't know, and it hasn't been talked about what happened on the personal side with all this news that happened with John Laurinaitis and WWE, because Laurinaitis, of course, is married to their mom, and the idea that Laurinaitis was having an affair with someone that he worked with, I'm not sure how much knowledge that was in the household already. So
that's been kept quiet.
Yeah, no. That's that. Remember
Is that why he got let go?
Yes,
he was part of it.
He was part of that because remember that there was the paralegal that Vince was hiring, and he apparently passed her off to Laurinaitis. Yeah, that's how Laurinaitis. Yeah, that's how Laurinaitis got involved in that. So Laurinaitis obviously was quietly released. So I don't know how that impacted the Bella household at home. So that's actually a legitimate question, and I'm not sure. So I guess we'll have to tune in to find out.
Ooh.
But I don't know how many public appearances he's making these days. Vince tried a public appearance, but he was real clandestine about it on his birthday. So
yeah,
wasn't it with Cena too, right?
Yes, it was. Cena and Brock and McAfee, and happy birthday, Cena and his wife.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. The plot thickens.
All right.
But I'll say from this perspective, shout out to Nikki Bella. Like,
yes,
I felt bad watching for years simply because, ma'am, the man told you he doesn't want to be married. The man told you he doesn't want children. Those are the two things you really, really want.
That's right.
Why would you subject yourself to this man who says he doesn't want it?
That's right.
I have
Come
an
through,
answer.
TK. Come through, TK.
What's the answer?
Here, at the end of the day, right? He said he didn't want kids. He didn't want to be married, right? But then you knew this is what she's wanting. Not necessarily putting the onus on him or her. However, if you're like, I don't want kids, I don't want to marry, but we can be in a relationship and we can still do all these lavish stuff, whatever. You're making it harder for the person to, because now you're hoping that, okay, well, if he loves me and he wants to be in a relationship, then yeah, you can change him. And I think that if that was the case and he knew that's what she truly wanted because she talked, like it was very evident, then he should have been grown and said,
I agree.
You're right. You're right.
I agree.
I can't do nothing for you, and I'm out. And then the next question was, if they did get married, would he have eventually had kids, or would she have been? And that's the thing. So now you're like, okay, now you want to marry me. You said all these years you didn't want to marry me. So then who's to say that you don't want to have kids? So in her defense, and we don't know what the pillow talk was like too.
Right.
So if that's truly, he didn't want anything like that. Because I have a friend, like, he doesn't want any of that. And he's very particular on who he dates. He listens to what women say because he doesn't want to be a part. He doesn't want to be a part of that. So why get your feelings involved? So it's
That's
like, you knew she wanted it, then, and again, Nikki's also grown and she could have made that decision. But if you're leading somebody saying, I don't want all this, but I'm going to love you. I'm going to protect you. I'm going to do, like, he's aside from a lot of quirks that he has, is clear that he loved her in a John Cena way.
Right.
So, I think you have to take that into consideration as well.
Yeah. You're right.
I still felt bad for her, I'm glad that ultimately they both got what they wanted.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably what's most important. And they both seem to be very, very happy. So congratulations to Nikki and Artem.
There it is. What do you have for us? Anything else you have for us, Mimi?
Don't. I don't.
That was quick. Don't. Sorry.
That's all. I talked about the Bellas, and I'm good. Are you staying with us for the rest of the show?
Well, do you want me to stay?
Of course.
Would you like me to stay? To the party, to sit with the cool kids.
Yes. What do you have for us, Mr. Bonner?
Well, we've got an interesting situation with let's go with FTR.
Okay.
So FTR, of course, they're the team right now. They are the team. 3 tag titles they hold, including the ROH tag titles, the Triple H tag titles, and the IWGP tag team championships. So you'd figure with them being the hottest tag team in all of AEW, certainly they would find themselves on the first ever AEW video game Fight Forever, right? Not exactly. Because apparently they were initially in the game, but they have been removed from the game. And when they were told of this, they weren't exactly happy about it. So apparently they were in the developmental stages of the game, and somebody somewhere made a decision to say, no, let's pull them out. Now, some are saying it might be connected to whatever their contract situation was, but I just don't think it's a smart move to remove your most popular tag team. I mean, after all, WWE, they've kept a ton of folks in games, release them, and still allow these characters to come out. So this could be really one of those things that really backfires against AEW, because one of the big components of their audience is the gaming community. They've built a lot around that. And so to now take the most popular team in AEW and not put them on their debut game, bad move.
So what are you going to say, Mimi?
Do you want to go first?
You might have my answer, so you can go.
So they're in 2K22. So that might be the caveat. Not sure what that, not sure what that
interesting
looks like.
Okay.
But
interesting.
Yeah, because they're in the game.
Interesting.
So they might have a couple of other people who might be shuffling out.
That's interesting too. But that would also that would make things very interesting, because obviously several of the super popular people right now in AEW are transplants from WWE.
That's right.
So, I don't know if it is a thing to see how long. So for instance, I imagine there wouldn't be an issue with Moxley and Jericho, since they've been gone long enough from WWE not to be on the new game. But a Bryan Danielson, an Adam Cole, a Keith Lee, a Shane Strickland, those all could be problematic. They're all very popular folks in AEW. You'd imagine they'd be in the game. Could this be an issue for them as well?
And then JD has a question. Is it possible they're saving them for an expansion?
Well, it's interesting because they were initially in, but they pulled them out in the spring. So, I don't know if that would be the technique to save them for expansion or not. I would tend to think in this particular space, you obviously want to hit hard from the jump. And obviously save expansion, I would think, for kind of those dream types of characters, as opposed to regular characters who you would see on a weekly basis on AEW. So now, for instance, I would think based on when the game started developing, perhaps Punk would be an expansion character based on when he got there versus an FTR. So just my 2K.
Strickland is in there too.
Interesting. And Cole is in the game.
And Cole is in the game.
Now that gets very interesting since FTR came before any of them.
I know that when I was there for the Mattel and the 2K stuff, even if there were releases and the game is super far along in terms of the roster, and in terms of the line for the action figures, Mattel would not pull from that because it's almost, that's why they do the 90 days. So even if it doesn't come out in 90 days, it's already in the pipeline. It's already a go. But I don't know the wording for the game. But for it to be pulled in the springtime, I'm sure a note went to AEW. I'm sure they caught wind and they said, okay, here's a list of people that you can't have in the game.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So Carl says FTR not being in there is interesting, but I think Mimi's onto something. I mean, I mean, on both. It
makes sense.
I don't think you could be on both. So there's that. But we have the man.
Shout out to Cal, Black Rascal.
Kenny McCoy is in the building. What is
What's good?
I just don't understand how you are not hot with all those layers. Like,
where do you
live?
He lives in LA.
Thank you. Thank you. This is.
I saw you in person wearing shorts and a t-shirt on Friday, but then I see you in your house and you're wearing layers and a winter cap.
It's cool in the house. It's cool in the house. It's the look. You got to live the gimmick, okay? You got the in-the-house clothes, and then you got your outside clothes. I live near the beach, so I'm not in the valley. So you know, it's very cool in here. The way that weather works
and outside
for
clothes
audio.
is a real thing.
Exactly. And you never get in bed with your outside clothes on.
That part.
You know what I mean? You know, you smelling like outside. You know what I mean? But you know, we out here cooling. Yeah, I know. They said that's why you can't eat everybody food. You can't go to everybody's house because you're gonna leave with some unwelcome guests. You know what I'm saying? Okay. I was in one shorty house. You know, I was like, do the roaches pay rent here too? Are y'all splitting the rent? You know what I'm saying? It's been kind of bad. But speaking of things not being able to go anywhere. Our girl Paige, we thought we've seen the last ever, as we talked about multiple times here on WWT Live. Paige has, yes, indeed, departed from the WWE. She's quote unquote retired. She's done from wrestling, but we all know she's WWE retired. A lot of people are retired because WWE won't clear them to wrestle, but they end up coming back later, either in WWE or we see them elsewhere. And this might be the case with Miss Paige, aka Soraya, as this past weekend there was a wrestling match, literally a fighting with my family situation, as her two brothers, Zach Zodiac and Roy Knight, who you remember from the Fighting with My Family movie, that Dwayne The Rock Johnson directed. They were about to beat each other with some chairs. TK, I think we have the clip here. Whenever it's ready to be pulled up, is really insane. They out here in England fighting, looking like Oasis out here. Two brothers fighting in England, and then all of a sudden, look who appears.
Crazy person right now. I cannot stand seeing my brothers fight like this. This is sickening. Listen, I am home October 15th, and I have the best idea for you two. You two are obviously going to have a match, but you also need an official for that match. An official that's going to pull it down the middle. An official that's not going to take any of your shit. And you're going to make up afterwards. So your official for that night is going to be me.
Oh, wow!
Damn, son.
Wow.
Oh, that's
wow.
Awesome.
Well,
awesome.
we're gonna see which brother is the favorite. Clearly, as as this goes down October 15th for WAW's Frightmare 4 is going down October 15th over there in England, bruv. So we're gonna be excited to see Paige back in the wrestling ring for a first time in a long time. And the question is, will she or won't she take a bump? I believe we will see a massive referee bump. We might even see her get physical. We might see her do a move. Those are her brothers. She came up with intergender wrestling against men. So it's not something out of the ordinary. And I think this will be kind of the dip of the toe back into the squared circle pool of wrestling for Miss Paige, a.k.a. Soraya. So I'm excited to see what goes down with this.
That's amazing.
It's very exciting. Yeah, this is... the thing is with WWE, it seems like they're the most stringent on health to an extent, you know, barring steroids and stuff, allegedly. But it's like, it feels like if WWE's like, okay, we're not clearing you, then why would other, you know, obviously giving it some time, but why would other promotions clear them with probably less insurance and all this other stuff? Or do the wrestlers pretty much just take it on themselves, and if they get injured, they get injured, and you know the promotion essentially doesn't really care? But would you want that attached to your promotion as like, okay, well, she came back and you know she got injured and now she's really out? So you know that type of stuff concerns me.
I think that some of these promotions, especially the smaller ones that are trying to get notoriety, because they see what AEW has done. However, AEW had a bag with them. You know what I mean? So that is, you can't really compare, but they're still trying to, they know that the dream is possible. And so I think that they'll do all the waivers that they want to do. However, they'll take that chance to say Paige wrestled here or Paige was an official here. Hoping that that doesn't happen. But I think that's where the mindset is. We want to get out there. Let's just hope for the best, and let's bring them in because they're a big name.
Yeah.
You know, the other side of it is there's the financial gain that the company has to get from it, you know, whether that's ratings or ticket sales, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, you know. And again, a lot of these wrestlers, because they want to get back in the ring, are willing to put themselves in that particular space where, you know, a lot of them still are the independent contractors, where they are responsible for their own health insurance, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it ends up being kind of a mutual thing where WWE understands that it's much more of a liability on their end. And so they would rather exercise extreme caution. But as we've seen in several cases, there's a lot of times where they said no, where the wrestlers were actually able to go. And we've seen even a more physical style from a Bryan Danielson than we ever saw in WWE. But, you know, it's up to you.
Absolutely. And I think to go with that whole independent contractor thing, that's kind of the thing that obsesses a lot of wrestlers with WWE when they're told that they can't wrestle, because it's like, how am I independent contractor? How am I, you know, an employee? How can you tell me what to do? So you see a lot of these wrestlers go elsewhere and again, fight for the bag, fight for the wrist. This is what they love to do. We just saw 73-year-old Ric Flair fight his quote unquote last match, asterisks, more to come possibly later. You know what I mean? Yeah, I mean, you know, well, he keep on wrestling like this, he will be in a box.
But he's actually the perfect example, right? Like, if he's willing to risk it, the promoters are willing to get that money, you know, and so because it's non-refundable.
Yeah. So Anthony says, I agree with TK. WWE is very stringent, but it's for a good reason. They care about the serious injuries. I mean, care is strong, allegedly, and they probably can get away with the rest. The rest are getting hurt again because of their insurance. I mean, I even with them being contractors, I think from them, the way they tour and the fact that they're traveling all the time. Even if you are a contractor and something really bad happens to you, there is, some form of lawsuits. However, WWE has been known to take care, aside from even the bigger injuries, wrestlers who had, drug issues and all this. So WWE is known to take care.
That's right.
Maybe Vince McMahon, I should say, is known to take care of some of their wrestlers. Some of them, and I'm sure there's a plethora of things that we are not privy to at all, as far as, what goes behind and who they choose to take care of or not. But I think because you're the top dog, you can afford to do that. And the person can go, look at Big E, he can go, he can rehab, and when he's integral part to New Day and WWE. Can you really see Big E anywhere else? I'm sure he could, but there's a Hall of Famer right there.
And there's a couple of things here that we're forgetting about when it comes to Paige, aka Saraya Knight. Big number one thing we're forgetting about, worrying about her getting injured. Saraya Knight is British. They have universal health care. She's going to be all right over there, okay? We got to worry about this stuff here, okay? If we break our finger, do we go to urgent care or take an Uber because we can't take a hospital because the bill's going to be so high? So they can literally afford to be hurt over in the UK because they actually take care of people. I know. What a concept, actually helping people. It's pretty crazy, right?
Yeah, but they do. I have to say that they do. They absolutely help every single body. Big shouts. As long as they're contacted, they will help you out.
Big shouts to the NHS. And also, just to add on this, remember a couple of months ago, we saw Chelsea Green cut a promo or a video or do something where she challenged Paige to a match at this very event. Now, we haven't heard about it since then, but Chelsea Green called her out, and it's very interesting because I believe Matt Cardona will also be on this card. So it's going down October 15th in Norwich, England, bruv. It's going down. Tickets on sale at wawuk.com for those who have a passport and feel like going to England in October to get murdered by Jack the Ripper. I don't know what happens. Maybe that's one of the things you go for to experience and get a t-shirt for the experience. But anywho, it's going to be a lot of crazy things happening today. No, don't you hit that down! That's where it originated. It wasn't. Anyway, but Matt Cardona is scheduled to be on the card. So we might even see a situation where Paige referees this match and then goes to fight Chelsea Green that same night and makes a return that night. Because actually on the website, they have it listed as Saraya Knight versus Chelsea Green. So could it be doing a spoiler alert? Who knows what's going to happen? But I know we're all going to be watching some WAW.
So Anthony says that she got injured again. She would have been paralyzed for the rest of her life. But they said that about Danielson.
Edge, Daniel Bryan.
Edge. And so I feel like, I mean, your body's an incredible thing. And then to speak to the healthcare, just because it's all around doesn't mean that there's certain nuances. Yes, everybody, you're not afraid to go to the doctor and you're not going to get a $600 bill, but you breaking your neck is
I mean, and she hasn't taken a bump in a long time. Who knows how it can heal? We've seen miracles happen with Edge and Daniel Bryan and Stone Cold Steve Austin. And again, I think she wouldn't be putting herself at risk if she didn't know and if she didn't have the proper clearance. It's just that WWE doctors are very stringent and they're with a lot of money, so you can sue them for a lot of money, as opposed to other companies aren't with a lot of money, so you can't sue them for that much. So we're going to see how it goes down October 15th. Will she step back in the squared circle? And again, I think Paige will be all right. She's not like me and you who have to stress about paying for medical bills. Medical bills are expensive. I wish we had universal health care here. I wish we had NHS, but they have it in the UK. Do you guys know how I pay for my medical bills?
How did you pay?
Do you guys know how I use for medical bills? I pay with my medical bills with my WWE Superstar credit card.
Did you get a credit increase?
I had to pay for my broken leg somehow. Yes. I had to pay for these bills somehow. So yeah.
So wait,
I mean, why not lay the smackdown on medical debt? You know what I mean? My WWE.
Wait, so the one thing I will say is, remember, she did have her surgery. She came back and she did get hurt again. and it was a freak accident. So to their credit, they were stringent, but out of all the other ones that they didn't let come back very quickly, they let her come back a little bit quicker than other people, right? And look what happened. So I would just hope that she would take that into consideration and just fall back and just do the referee thing.
I agree.
And she might be perfectly fine. She hasn't wrestled in a long time too. So we have no idea.
Oh man,
it's the American way, JD. Come on, that's why they say break a leg.
Oh my goodness! All right, we have time for one more story. What do you have, Kane?
Yes. Let's talk about it. Drew McIntyre. That sounded like Scrooge McDuck. That was pretty bad. He sent a warning to Karrion Kross. As you know, Karrion Kross made his reemergence, his re-debut, his retconned Raw run. We completely forgetting that ever happened when he came out in a BDSM fit. Remember that when he came Wild Scarlet? Yeah. But he sent a warning to Karrion Kross to basically, stay out of my business come Clash of the Castle time. This is the biggest event of my entire career, McIntyre says, and he says that Karrion Kross is not letting up. He's leaving symbols. Of course, we've seen in SmackDown that we've seen the TikTok sand glass being left around, the hourglass, and Drew just says that that Karrion Kross needs to watch out, which, man, I mean, it just feels like Clash of the Castle is built around Drew McIntyre. Like this whole thing, Clash at the Castle in Scotland. This feels very British Bulldog SummerSlam '92 IC title match against Brett that main evented in Wembley for that simple reason where the hometown hero goes over. So it's like, man, will the title end for Roman? Will it end like this in Scotland with Drew taking both titles? Or to protect Drew, to keep Roman as champion, to set up the WrestleMania Hollywood match against The Rock, asterisk. Does we have Karrion Kross come in and kind of screw everything up in order to make Drew look clean in his loss to protect Drew? So that's what I feel that's going to happen, which is a bummer because Drew needs that moment and he needs it while his momentum is coming, because he beat Brock, but in front of nobody at WrestleMania 2 years ago at the COVID WrestleMania. So it just feels like, it almost makes you not want to watch the Clash at the Castle because we feel like we know what's going to happen. And then Drew's going to go into a program with Karrion Kross, and this is going to just set up Roman going through people until WrestleMania, which also brings up another point. Does The Rock win the Royal Rumble, by the way? Does The Rock win the Royal Rumble, or the Royal Rumble winner faces The Rock, or something happens, or the Royal Rumble winner cashes in at the February pay-per-view and then loses?
Look,
then Rock comes.
We already said
so many questions.
Rock comes, it has to be Roman Reigns. If it's anybody else, then what are we doing?
That's right. That's right.
We already know The Rock doesn't come for men. Like, he doesn't do many things. Shout out to my boy, you know him, Kane. James Jefferson Jr. The Rock actually sent a video in for his wedding. Like, The Rock does
watching the video for James Andre Jefferson Jr. wedding.
Well, go to his
That's
thing.
amazing.
He sent a video for him, but The Rock sends videos.
Trust to James.
But for him to show up,
he
don't be showing up all the time. So he's gonna show up. Like,
it's gonna mean something.
Yeah, let's take a poll. Everybody in the chat, everybody here. If The Rock shows up and he has a match with anybody other than Roman Reigns, like, what are you upset, or are you gonna be happy? Oh no, he should have a battle with, I don't know, we'll pull him out of the box, Ric Flair. Like, I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Wait, Kane, you said both. Both belts.
Yeah, like it's for both belts, right? But you know what? WWE hasn't really acknowledged that, have they now? Because that's what I was thinking too. Like, it's for both titles that he's fighting Roman for, correct? Because I know they're calling Roman the
one.
undisputed WWE Universal Champion. That's been the name. They've never mentioned World Heavyweight since he.
Yeah, it's both belts.
But it is for both titles, right? It hasn't been like, oh, well, it's going to be for one. He's going to leave as the double champ. And also, to correction, Anthony, you are right. It is in Wales. I think I said it was in Scotland.
It's Cardiff, Wales.
It's the UK.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Hashtag Wales. Actually, it's in Wales. But no. It's in the UK.
Please.
No!
Thank you.
Well, actually, it is.
Oh, that is funny.
In the UK, he don't need a passport to go there. So, you know.
The Rock is not showing up until March. Definitely agree. JD with the great question. We could answer this before we get out of here. Where we see Cody in all this, because he's going to be coming back soon. And then Anthony saying he doesn't, which we have mentioned before, that the Rock and Roman doesn't have to be for a championship.
Precisely.
But you know that is a thing. However, I'm just making a point that if he has a match with anybody else other than Roman Reigns, like what are we doing? Because we know once the Rock comes back for Hollywood, and if he does, we're not going to see him again for another 5-10 years, if ever.
Yeah.
I mean, this is it, because The Rock is 50 years old. You know, like like the man is 50 years old. He is now 2 digits of the old Rock's $500 shirts he used to wear. He is the 5 and he's the 0. He is 50 years old, man. So, you know, he's preparing for this moment. If it's going to be Rock and Roman non-title, then for the title has to be Cody and Seth to kind of like, you know, find some closure to that. And somehow Cody wins the Rumble and cashes in early in February because of the Rock's interference, maybe, or something. But regardless of the fact, this has us talking because we don't know what's going to happen. Because I know we just assume Rock Roman for the championship at WrestleMania, but that means that Rock has to win the Rumble, right? Or somebody else wins the Rumble.
Not really.
And cashes in early and loses, unless the Rumble winner fights in February or on the next night's Raw and loses.
Unless the Rumble winner is Cody Rhodes,
or unless where's Heyman? Heyman comes back, put a clause in the contract, says it's only for one title. Then he winds up giving Drew the WWE title, not Universal, and he keeps the Universal because he's had the Universal longer. So he probably wants to keep that clock running, right? Right, and then somewhere along the line, nobody picks Roman, and then The Rock comes in, and then whatever happens with the
world
champion happens with the world champ. Yeah,
but here's the thing. Mimi, does The Rock come back to fight for the Universal Championship though?
No,
he doesn't. But maybe he says, you know what? To spank you even more, I'm gonna take your title away from you to show you who's really the head of the table.
Little cousin Joe. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm with it. I can see that. Well, Clash of the Castle's going down this weekend, y'all.
And we are gonna have
they've already taken the SmackDown, obviously. We can hit on that, but Clash of the Castle, big wrestling weekend, Clash of the Castle, as well as All Out, as well as NXT when worlds collide. We're going to see the unification of the UK title. So absolutely great time to be a wrestling fan.
Yes. Thank you, Trips.
Yeah, right.
Thank you, Trips.
My favorite letter of the alphabet, H.
Yes.
All right, Mimi, where can everybody find you?
I am Mimi Shells. You can find me tomorrow night, 7 p.m. at on Twitter Spaces doing Turbo Talk with my kicks and my fix, my buddy Corey, and on Thursdays at 7 p.m. on the Black Wrestling YouTube channel. Come through.
And Mr. Bonner, can everybody find you?
You can find me at Bonnerfied on all of the platforms. Of course, you can find me on IWTV for Southern Honor Wrestling. You can find me on Fight TV with Battle Slam doing commentary there. Also working with Championship District Wrestling. And over the weekend, had a great opportunity to call the brand new student showcase over at the Nightmare Factory. Some really fun things happened that I can't talk about, but yes, great time. So hit me up at Bonnerfied, and more stuff coming in September, a lot more. So we'll keep you posted.
Nice.
And Kane McCoy.
Yes, unfortunately, you can follow me at Kane McCoy, CAINMCCOY. I failed to mention this because I just noticed, but by the way, did you guys see on WWE.com certain 2 wrestlers are back on the roster page.
Well, they never left, I heard.
I thought they left because I
No,
checked.
it was the
So that was
internal
internal.
roster.
That was the
It was
internal roster.
Okay, but they were always on the website.
Correct.
I've never checked.
Yeah, I did check.
Okay.
We were, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, they're on there. Women's tag champions will be crowned tonight. We shall
They will
see what
be.
happens after the celebration. Ooh.
Yay!
It's always great to see Toxic Attraction on the website. I love it.
Yes.
There it is. Make sure you follow us on everything at WWT.
Kane caught that. Thank you, Kane.
And make sure you follow all our social media at WW Talk Pod. You can follow me on everything at TK Trinidad. Until next time, guys. See you on Wednesday. Ciao.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.